Well, a lot of people want to know about the future of boxing. What's next? What's coming up in the sport? And they also want to know a lot about the history of it, and we might just have the book that will answer all those questions. The book is called The Future of Boxing. The author is Alex Choco, and also joining us, the Canadian boxing legend, one of the greatest of all time, George Chuvalo. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us.
Nice to be here.
Well, Alex, you're a man who's worn a lot of hats in the sport of boxing, so I have to ask, what made you want to put the journalist hat on, the interviewer hat, and put something like this together?
The desire to learn, wanting to meet the greats and ask them very specific questions on the future of boxing. You know, you can't go to Harvard and learn about boxing, nor can you just knock on Mike Tyson's door and go, hey, I'd like to ask you a couple of questions. And putting the book together was really the angle to do it.
Boxing is one of those sports, though, that, you know, even though you said you can't just go knock on someone's door, you can walk into a lot of gyms and meet a lot of champions. That you can't do that in another sport. You can't just walk into the Broncos practice facility and meet Peyton Manning, but you can in boxing. Did you find that it was inclusive in that way, that you could get the interviews you wanted to?
Actually, it's not like that, but that's where I got the idea. At the time, I used to own TriStar Gym, which is a very famous gym in Montreal, and I felt very fast that I was limited in the knowledge that I could go get. You know, I had met with the Hiltons and so on, senior, but internationally, I knew I had to pack my bag and go out there. And that I met these great champions, not in gyms, but actually in their home. And that's what you get in the book. You have like one-on-one interview, both in the book, but also in the DVD, in their homes. Because we weren't approaching about, I was not asking them about the next fight. I was asking them about where they came from, and so on and so on. So it's, the gym aspect is covered. You know, I've been to a lot of gyms, but the interviews and getting access to them was through the International Boxing Hall of Fame.
And one of the most fascinating interviews, obviously, is with George Chuvalo himself. Now, George, how did you come in contact with Alex? How did you get involved with the process of this book?
Well, I first met Alex at the Boxing Hall of Fame dinner, which I have every year, Boxing Hall Week, rather, at Canastota, New York, just east of Syracuse. That's the International Boxing Hall of Fame. I met you there a couple of times, I think, Alex. And then where did I meet again?
Still pinching myself.
We also met in the Cardiff, Wales, at the World Boxing Council World Boxing Council yearly meeting, and we struck up a friendship. And he asked me to read the book. I had a good look at the book, and I said, "Hey, you got quite a book here."
And he's the only Canadian in the book.
That's right. Yeah. Well, did you find that there was kind of a kinship between you two because you're a Canadian, because he's been in the ring as well? Did you find that the interview went better because of that? Because maybe he understood.
Well, I think I like him anyway. He's a nice guy.
Is it my broken nose?
Yeah, broken nose. Yeah. But it's plain and simple. He's a nice guy. We struck it off well. We get along, and he asked me to read the book. I read the book as best I could, and I thought it was quite a compilation of a lot of good things, a lot of insight, a lot of. First of all, it's like an easy read, and the questions asked were some questions that the average guy would want to ask. What was your favorite moment? What was your best fight? How did you grow up? And so pretty well, all the guys were asked basically the same kind of questions in a lot of ways, and a few different answers and so on. But it's quite an interesting book. It's quite a thorough book, a thorough look at boxing, and a thorough look at the hope of boxing, the way he saw it, and the way he sees the future in boxing in terms of better care for fighters, a pension for fighters, something unheard of before. I mean, baseball's got it, basketball's got it, hockey's got it, boxing, no dice. So he talks about that quite a bit in the book, and he talks about the safety of boxing, about the safety of fighters with respect to concussions, as they often talk about in hockey and in football, but in boxing it's more prevalent than those other sports, because the intent is really to hurt the guy anyway. When you're going to throw headshots, especially, you're looking to do damage, and concussions happen when you get hit on the head hard and you get rocked, and bad things can happen. So they're trying to lessen the injuries, trying to lessen the fact that a man is hurt and has to wait a certain amount of time to be scrutinized very carefully before he can step back in the ring. Not only in the ring in a fight, but in the ring in sparring. And that can be a problem. Sometimes a guy gets hurt and he goes back to the gym too early. When I say back to the gym to spar, and then he has to be carefully monitored by his trainer. And you can only do that with a very careful aftercare after a fight where a guy gets knocked out. It's very important to make sure that you get proper rest and have proper scan to make sure you shouldn't fight again too soon, or at least spar again too soon.
When we talk about the future of boxing, then, and I'll start with you then, do you think that in terms of improving the sport and what you would like to see next insofar as changes to the sport, do you think that the safety of the fighters is at the top of that list, is pertinent?
Well, yes, but you have to remember, boxing is one of the most dangerous sports in the world. So when we talk about safety, is safety measures in order to be able to really be 100% when you perform. And boxing is entertainment, you know. So you have to be careful. It starts in the gym. It starts with the fact that there should be an overall organization overlooking all these gyms, all the gym owners, and giving them tools to make sure that when an injury happens in the gym, it's reported, and it's reported to an authority that will not allow fighters to go fight 2 weeks after he got rocked, you know, and he got a head concussion. And the whole system, there's many things in regards to the contracts that has to be done as well. You know, when a fighter, like George, we were having very interesting conversation. When a fighter has a contract signed for a fight, whether he's making $400 for a 4-rounder or $2 million, if he does not fight, if he does not show up the day of his fight, he gets zip. Unless he receives some money for training purposes in advance, he gets zip. So very often, the way the business is lined up, you have some very important key players that will make the wrong decision and allow for that fighter to fight even though he shouldn't be fighting. So I'm not saying I want to make boxing safe, but there has to be an overall communication under one umbrella.
What do you think the best way to do that would be, George? Would that be to just create one big governing body that would oversee everything?
Well, one governing body makes it a whole lot easier. You only have one office to speak to, and I think there's a few problems. First of all, in boxing, you have judges who never boxed. You have referees who never boxed. You more have to have a referee who boxed, but not judges. And I think with the poor judging that we've seen recently, especially recently on television, you know, there has to be some people have to be called up and checked out. And I don't think they have the proper credentials to be boxing judges. I think you have to have a history, just like a referee in hockey. Usually hockey referees have played some kind of pro hockey or amateur hockey or hockey to some level where they have a better understanding than the average guy who didn't play hockey.
The same
and
goes
same thing
with
applies to
trainers.
fighters.
Remember we were talking about that? The same goes with trainers.
Of course.
You got to educate everybody who's involved in the sport in order for the sport to become better. That's the really important thing.
We need more referees like Randy Newman who've been in the ring and understand.
Exactly.
Or Joe Cortez,
exactly.
who just retired. You know, we need more trainers. There's a lot of important things that needs to be done for a better boxing future.
Well, boxing has always had, you know, its share of issues, and we don't want to make this all negative. But
No.
the title of the book is The Future of Boxing, and people always, there's this stigma around people who don't follow the sport that somehow its popularity has taken a step back. Now, all three of us, you know, pay the bills in some fashion because of the sport of boxing, so I think we know that that's not the case. But what do you see the future of boxing as being? How popular is it right now? And where's it going?
Look at the cover. It's hundreds of people looking at potentially the future. And this is why I went through 17,000 images just to find this one, to find the perfect image, because the real answer is in the book, but the real answer, the real answer is in the book by all these greats. They all share, you know, what they think the future of boxing is. But the truth is, it has to be a global vision. And boxing will get stronger and stronger in United States, Canada, and everywhere else in the world when we educate the people, when we have stronger amateur program, when we have one umbrella addressing all the people that are involved, clearer roles for trainers, managers, matchmakers, promoters. You talked about having many hats. Right now I have one. I sold the gym. I no longer promote boxing. I no longer train. I focus just